Maya Rodriguez had exactly 17 broken systems on her maintenance roster when the biggest damn ship she'd ever seen decided to park itself at Deep Space Station Omega 7. And naturally, it was blocking the external sensor array she needed to fix. "Perfect," she muttered, adjusting her tool belt and staring out the observation deck window. Just absolutely perfect. The ship looked like someone had taken a battleship, fed it nothing but protein shakes and steroids for a year, then covered it in spikes for good measure. It was the kind of vessel that screamed, "We are very serious about murder," in 17 different alien languages. "Maya." Jake's voice crackled through her comm unit with that special brand of panic reserved for middle management discovering they'd have to actually manage something. "Get up to command. Now." She sighed and made her way through the station's corridors, past the usual collection of alien traders, diplomats, and tourists who treated humanity like the galaxy's newest pet species. Which, to be fair, wasn't entirely wrong. Humans had been part of the Galactic Council for all of 5 years, and most of the established species still treated them like adorable children who'd somehow learned to operate starships. The Zephyrians thought humans were charmingly primitive with their emotional attachments. The crystalline hegemony found human unpredictability quaint. Even the warlike Thoraxians considered humans too small and soft to be taken seriously as a threat. It was like being the galaxy's favorite pet hamster, complete with head pats and condescending praise for basic achievements. Maya had always found this patronizing attitude hilarious, mainly because she'd seen what humans could accomplish when properly motivated. Usually by broken equipment and looming deadlines. Command buzzed with nervous energy when she arrived. Admiral Thompson, a man who looked like he'd rather be filling out requisition forms than dealing with whatever fresh crisis had landed on his desk, gestured toward the main view screen. "Rodriguez, meet the Krexathi." The screen displayed what could only be described as 8 feet of genetically engineered nightmare fuel. The creature had 6 arms, each ending in claws that could probably open cans without an opener, skin that looked like it was designed to stop bullets, and enough facial scarring to suggest it had learned conflict resolution from particularly aggressive blenders. "Bioengineered warriors," Thompson continued, his voice carrying that special tone reserved for explaining why everyone was about to have a very bad day. "They've conquered 47 star systems. Their entire species exists for one purpose: warfare." "Okay," Maya said, genuinely confused about why this was her problem. "Did they break something? Because I've got a life support malfunction in Section C that's making everyone's coffee taste like recycled air filters." "They want to evaluate humanity's combat effectiveness," Thompson said. "Apparently there are rumors circulating about human unpredictability in combat situations, and they want to investigate before deciding whether we're a threat worth conquering or just another species to subjugate." Maya stared at the screen. The Krexathi warrior was now flexing, which seemed unnecessary but probably made perfect sense in whatever culture-produced creatures that looked like they'd been designed by a committee of serial killers. "So let me get this straight," she said slowly. "These things, which look like they could bench press a space shuttle, are concerned about humans being dangerous." "Apparently." Maya looked around the command center, taking in the collection of slightly overweight middle-aged officers, nervous junior staff, and one very stressed admiral who clearly hadn't signed up for this when he'd accepted a posting to what was supposed to be a quiet border station. "Have they met humans?" she asked. 2 hours later, Maya was elbow-deep in the station's industrial washing unit, trying to figure out why it had decided that spin cycle meant violent seizure, when something very large blocked out the overhead lighting. "Greetings, small creature." Maya didn't look up. The voice sounded like someone gargling gravel mixed with threats, which meant it was either a Krexathi or Jake had developed a really impressive cold. "If you're not here to help me fix this washer, you're in my way," she said, reaching deeper into the machine's guts. "This thing's been making sounds like a dying whale for 3 days, and I've got a backlog of laundry complaints that's longer than my patience. I am Commander Vex'tar of the Krexathi War Fleet, bioengineered for conquest, trained from birth in the arts of warfare, and bred to inspire terror in the hearts of my enemies." "Aha." Maya finally looked up and had to crane her neck to see all of him. He was exactly as advertised, 8 feet of genetically enhanced murder machine, complete with ceremonial scarring and enough muscle mass to suggest his protein requirements could fund a small agricultural planet. Could you step to the left? You're blocking the light, and I can't see what I'm doing. Vex'tar's 6 arms spread wide in what was probably meant to be an intimidating display. Instead, it reminded Maya of someone trying to show off their new jacket. Do you not comprehend the significance of my presence, human? I am death incarnate, the harbinger of. Look, Vex, Maya interrupted, pulling a wrench from her tool belt. I'm sure you're very impressive and terrifying and all that, but right now I need you to either help me hold this pressure valve steady or move so I can see what I'm working on. Some of us have actual jobs to do. The silence that followed was the kind of profound quiet that suggested Vex'tar's entire worldview was undergoing rapid and unwelcome renovation. Maya took advantage of it to adjust the valve alignment and tighten the connections that were causing the mechanical seizures. You show no fear, he said finally, and Maya could hear genuine confusion in his voice. Fear of what? A washing machine? I mean, it's been acting up, but I don't think it's actively malicious. Probably just needs a new timing belt. No, fear of me. I am bred for war. Trained to kill. My very presence should inspire terror. Maya paused in her work and really looked at him for the first time. He was impressive, she had to admit. If she'd been looking for someone to star in a low-budget action movie about alien gladiators, Vex'tar would have been perfect. But she'd spent 10 years maintaining life support systems, artificial gravity generators, and fusion reactors. Her definition of scary had been permanently recalibrated by equipment that could kill everyone on the station if she made a mistake. I'm sure you're very good at your job, she said diplomatically. But unless you're planning to challenge this washing machine to single combat, I don't see how your skill set applies to my current situation. Vex'tar stared at her with what she assumed was his intimidating glare. Maya stared back with what she knew was her "I have 17 more repairs to finish before my shift ends" expression. It was a contest between genetic engineering and deadline pressure. Deadline pressure won. Fine, Vex'tar said, his voice cracking slightly. How can I assist with this mechanical challenge? Maya blinked in surprise. Oh well, if you could hold this steady while I tighten the mounting bolts, that would actually be helpful. And that was how Commander Vex'tar, bioengineered killing machine and scourge of 47 star systems, that found himself serving as a very overqualified assistant to a maintenance worker who treated him like a particularly tall intern. Absolutely not, Maya said when Admiral Thompson explained the situation. I have 17 broken systems, a shift that ends in 4 hours, and a washing machine that finally works properly. I am not fighting anyone. They were back in command along with Vex'tar, who looked like he was still processing his experience in the laundry room. Jake stood nearby, clearly enjoying the situation far more than was appropriate for someone whose job description included crisis management. I must restore my honor, Vex'tar announced, his voice regaining some of its earlier gravitas. This small human has treated me with casual disregard, as if I were merely another piece of malfunctioning equipment. I mean, Maya said thoughtfully, you were kind of malfunctioning. All that dramatic posturing when you could have just introduced yourself normally. Jake snorted with laughter. Admiral Thompson looked like he was developing stress-related medical conditions in real time. The challenge has been issued, Vex'tar continued. Combat will determine whether humanity deserves the respect accorded to warrior species, or if you will be classified as a subordinate civilization suitable only for subjugation. Can't we just show them our military records? Thompson asked hopefully. We have some very impressive tactical victories. Combat is the only true measure of warrior spirit, Vex'tar declared. Your Maya Rodriguez will face me in the arena, and we shall see if human unpredictability is mere rumor, genuine threat. Maya sighed deeply. This is ridiculous. I fix things. That's what I do. I don't fight people, especially not people who were literally designed for fighting. It's like asking a screwdriver to perform surgery. Actually, Jake said cheerfully, I've seen you perform surgery on that screwdriver after you used it to pry open the plasma conduit housing last month. Not helping, Jake. Admiral Thompson cleared his throat. Rodriguez, I hate to say this, but refusing the challenge could be interpreted as an insult to Krexathi honor. Their entire fleet is in orbit right now, and while I'm sure Earth Command would eventually sort out the diplomatic incident, it would be messy. Maya looked around the room, taking in Thompson's pleading expression, Jake's barely contained glee, and Vex'tar's expectant pose. She thought about her repair schedule, her comfortable routine, and the 17 systems that were waiting for her attention. Will this count as overtime? She asked finally. Yes. And I assume combat arena preparation falls under facilities management? I suppose. Fine. Maya adjusted her tool belt and glared at Vex'tar. But I'm not changing out of my work clothes. And if this takes more than an hour, I'm charging the station for the delay in my maintenance schedule. Jake clapped his hands together. This is going to be amazing. I should probably call my wife and tell her I'll be late. She'll never believe this story. It's not a story, Jake. It's my job suddenly including violence, which definitely wasn't in the original contract. Vex'tar's expression had shifted from confident anticipation to mild concern. You approach mortal combat as if it were merely another task on your daily schedule. Because that's what it is, Maya replied. Unexpected, annoying, and probably going to make me late for lunch. As they headed toward the station's gymnasium, which was apparently going to serve as an impromptu combat arena, Maya couldn't help but notice that Vex'tar kept glancing at her with an expression that looked suspiciously like nervousness. Which was odd, considering he was the one with 6 arms and a genetic predisposition for violence. Maybe the other species were right about human unpredictability after all. The gymnasium had been hastily converted into something resembling a combat arena, complete with force field barriers and medical stations. Maya arrived to find Vex'tar in the middle of what appeared to be an elaborate pre-fight ritual involving chanting, weapon consecration, and interpretive dance. Is he going to be much longer? Maya asked Jake, who was setting up a recording device with the enthusiasm of someone documenting a historic moment. Because I've got that life support diagnostic to run, and if I don't start it soon, Section C is going to be complaining about the air quality again. It's a traditional Krexathi preparation ceremony. Admiral Thompson explained, consulting his tablet. Apparently it honors their warrior ancestors and channels their combat spirit. Maya watched as Vex'tar performed a complex series of movements while chanting in what sounded like the linguistic equivalent of aggressive beatboxing. His ceremonial weapons, which looked like they'd been designed by someone who thought regular swords weren't nearly dangerous enough, gleamed under the gymnasium's fluorescent lighting. Right, she said, pulling a sonic screwdriver from her tool belt. I'm going to check the arena's power systems while he finishes up. These force field generators haven't been serviced in months. 20 minutes later, Vex'tar concluded his ritual and turned toward Maya, who was halfway through rewiring the arena's safety systems. His ceremonial armor had been polished to a mirror finish, his weapons were arranged in precise ceremonial positions, and his 6 arms moved in fluid, practiced patterns that spoke of decades of combat training. I have honored my ancestors and prepared my spirit for glorious battle, he announced. Now, human, prepare yourself for. Could you hold this for a second? Maya interrupted, offering him a handful of electrical components. The backup power coupling is loose, and I don't want the force fields failing mid-fight. That would be embarrassing for everyone. Vex'tar stared at the components as if they were some kind of alien artifact, which Maya supposed they technically were. Where are your weapons? He asked. Your ceremonial preparations? Do humans not honor their warrior traditions before combat? Maya looked down at her standard-issue maintenance jumpsuit, her well-worn tool belt, and the sonic screwdriver she was holding like a tiny metal sword. This is pretty much it, she said. I mean, I could change into my dress uniform, but it's less comfortable and doesn't have as many pockets. And my tools are right here, so. Jake leaned forward from his position at the recording station. Maya, Are you seriously planning to fight an 8-foot-tall alien super warrior with maintenance equipment? Well, technically a sonic screwdriver is rated for light demolition work, Maya replied thoughtfully. And this multi-tool has 17 different functions. I'm probably better equipped than most people realize. The gathered crowd of Krexathi, the observers, began murmuring among themselves in their native language, which sounded like gravel being mixed in a cement truck. Maya got the impression they were either impressed or deeply concerned. You show no reverence for the gravity of this moment, Vex'tar said, and Maya was starting to recognize that particular tone. It was the same one she heard from equipment when it was working perfectly but complaining anyway. Look, Vex, I respect that this is important to you, she said, accepting the electrical components back and finishing her safety check. But I approach every job the same way. Figure out what needs to be done, use the right tools, and get it finished efficiently. Fighting you is just today's unusual maintenance request. She powered up the sonic screwdriver and tested its settings. The device hummed with mechanical precision, a sound that somehow managed to convey both competence and mild irritation. Besides, she added, if we're going to do this, we might as well do it properly. Arena's ready, safety systems are operational, and I've got 43 minutes before my next scheduled repair. Shall we get started? Vex'tar looked around the arena, taking in the perfectly calibrated force fields, the optimized lighting, and Maya's casual competence. His expression suggested he was beginning to suspect he might have made a tactical error. The fight began exactly as expected, with Vex'tar demonstrating why the Krexathi had conquered 47 star systems and Maya treating the whole situation like a particularly complex equipment malfunction. Vex'tar opened with a display of bioengineered prowess that was genuinely impressive. He moved with fluid grace despite his size, but his 6 arms working in perfect coordination as he demonstrated combat techniques that had been refined over generations of selective breeding and intensive training. His ceremonial weapons became extensions of his body, creating patterns of deadly beauty that spoke of countless hours of practice and natural talent. Maya watched this performance with the focused attention of someone studying a technical manual. Okay, she said, adjusting her grip on the sonic screwdriver. I see what you're doing there. Very systematic. Good form. But you're telegraphing your movements about 3 seconds in advance, which seems inefficient. Vex'tar paused mid-demonstration. What? The way you shift your weight before attacking. It's like a diagnostic routine that announces what it's going to do before doing it. Effective, probably against opponents who fight the same way you do, but easily predictable once you recognize the pattern. She stepped forward casually, and Vex'tar automatically moved to counter what his training identified as an attack approach. Maya stopped, tilted her head, and made a note on her tablet. See? Pattern recognition. Your responses are hard-coded, which makes you reliable but not adaptive. She looked up from her notes. Are we actually fighting now, or are we still in the demonstration phase? Vex'tar's expression cycled through confusion, indignation, and what might have been dawning concern. You analyze combat as if it were mechanical engineering. Everything's mechanical engineering if you think about it properly, Maya replied. Input, processing, output, cause and effect, action and reaction. You're just a very sophisticated biological machine with some interesting design specifications. That's when Vex'tar decided to stop talking and start fighting. His attack came with the full force of Krexathi military training, a coordinated 6-arm assault designed to overwhelm opponents through sheer complexity. It was beautiful, deadly, and exactly what Maya had expected based on her analysis of his movement patterns. She stepped sideways, ducked under 2 swinging arms, and used her sonic screwdriver to interfere with the magnetic locks on his ceremonial armor. The chest piece shifted just enough to throw off his balance, turning his coordinated attack into an awkward stumble. Interesting, Maya commented, making another note. Armor's integrated with your movement systems. That's a design flaw. Too much interdependency. Vex'tar recovered quickly, but Maya could see uncertainty creeping into his movements. His training had prepared him for opponents who fought with weapons, with strategy, with honor. It had not prepared him for someone who treated combat like troubleshooting a malfunctioning air recycler. You fight without honor, he accused, launching another attack. I fight efficiently, Maya corrected, using her multi-tool to temporarily short-circuit the power systems in his left-arm weapons. Honor's nice, but it doesn't fix broken equipment. The fight continued, but it was no longer a battle between warrior and maintenance worker. It had become something unprecedented, an encounter between programmed responses and adaptive problem-solving. Every technique Vex'tar employed, Maya analyzed, understood, and countered with the casual competence of someone who had spent years making stubborn machines work properly. And gradually something extraordinary happened. Vex'tar, the bioengineered killing machine, began to panic. His attacks became more desperate, less coordinated. His 6 arms, which had moved in perfect harmony during his demonstration, now interfered with each other as he tried to adapt to Maya's unpredictable responses. The confidence that came from generations of selective breeding and intensive training crumbled in the face of someone who simply refused to follow the established rules of combat. "This is impossible," he muttered, backing away from Maya's latest improvised countermove. "You have no training, no weapons, no warrior tradition." "I have 10 years of experience making impossible things work," Maya replied, adjusting the settings on her sonic screwdriver. "And right now you're just another system that needs debugging." The fight ended when Vex'tar, in a final desperate attack, overextended himself and left his primary combat processor exposed. Maya, treating it like any other piece of sensitive equipment, used her sonic screwdriver to temporarily scramble its higher functions. Vex'tar collapsed, not from injury but from complete system confusion. His bioengineered combat instincts, faced with an opponent who operated outside all known parameters, simply gave up and suggested a strategic retreat. Maya looked down at him, made a final note on her tablet, and checked her chronometer. 37 minutes, she announced to the stunned crowd. "Not bad. I should still have time for that life support diagnostic before lunch." The aftermath of Maya's victory created what Admiral Thompson would later describe in his official report as an unprecedented diplomatic situation with far-reaching implications for human-alien relations and significant overtime budget concerns. Vex'tar, once he recovered from his system crash, spent the next hour staring at Maya with an expression that combined awe, terror, and genuine confusion. His fellow Krexathi warriors gathered around him, speaking in hushed tones about the human who fights like broken physics and the small creature who debugged a warrior. "This is not how combat works," Vex'tar kept repeating, as if saying it enough times would restore order to his worldview. "There are rules, patterns, predictable outcomes based on training and physical capability." "Maybe for you," Maya said, finishing her post-fight system check of the arena. "But I've never read your combat manual, so I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I just did what made sense." Jake, who had recorded the entire encounter, was practically vibrating with excitement. "Maya, you just single-handedly changed humanity's galactic reputation. Do you realize what this means?" "It means I need to get back to work," Maya replied, but she was interrupted by the arrival of more Krexathi warriors, who approached her with the cautious respect usually reserved for unstable explosive devices. "Human Maya," one of them said, his voice carrying the same confusion that seemed to be standard among the species now. "We must understand, how did you overcome Commander Vex'tar? What training prepared you for this victory?" Maya looked around the group, taking in their genuine bewilderment. These were creatures designed from birth for warfare, raised in a culture where combat excellence was the highest achievement. And she had accidentally terrified them by treating their champion like a malfunctioning appliance. "I'm a maintenance engineer," she said slowly, as if explaining something to a particularly slow-learning algorithm. "I fix things that aren't working properly." Vex'tar was working exactly as designed, which made him predictable. Predictable systems are easy to troubleshoot. The Krexathi exchanged looks that conveyed entire conversations about the implications of this statement. "You speak of warfare as if it were mechanical repair," another warrior observed. "Everything's mechanical repair if you approach it correctly," Maya replied. "Identify the problem, determine the cause, implement a solution, test the results. Combat's just more dynamic than most equipment failures. Within hours, word had spread throughout the Krexathi fleet, and from there to the broader galactic community, that humanity had produced a warrior capable of defeating a Krexathi champion through methods so alien that they defied classification. The species that had been dismissed as charmingly primitive and adorably harmless was suddenly reclassified as dangerously unpredictable and tactically incomprehensible. Admiral Thompson received 3 promotion offers and 17 requests for detailed tactical analysis within the first day. Earth Command wanted a full report on Project Maya. The Galactic Council requested an emergency session to discuss the human combat paradigm. Maya just wanted to finish her maintenance schedule. "I'm promoting you to Chief Alien Relations Specialist," Thompson announced, looking simultaneously proud and exhausted, with a significant pay increase and expanded responsibilities. "What kind of expanded responsibilities?" Maya asked suspiciously. "Well, the Krexathi have requested that you train some of their warriors in human combat techniques. Apparently, they want to understand how you think." Maya looked over at Vex'tar, who was sitting nearby with a tablet, frantically taking notes, while she explained basic troubleshooting methodology to a group of fascinated alien warriors. "So let me get this straight," she said. "The galaxy's most feared warriors want me to teach them how to fix things?" "Essentially, yes." Maya considered this. The pay increase would be nice, and training people was just another form of maintenance when you thought about it. Plus, it might be amusing to watch creatures designed for conquest learning how to change air filters and calibrate sensor arrays. "Fine," she said. "But I'm not changing my approach. If they want to learn human tactics, they're going to learn proper maintenance procedures, starting with basic safety protocols and working up to complex system integration." 6 months later, the most feared military force in the galaxy had been transformed into the most competent technical support network anyone had ever seen. Krexathi warriors, bred for conquest and trained for warfare, now approached every challenge with the systematic problem-solving methodology they'd learned from a maintenance engineer who'd accidentally become the most feared human in known space. And Maya Rodriguez, Chief Alien Relations Specialist, continued to find the whole situation absolutely ridiculous. Especially when Vex'tar called her at 3 in the morning, because his ship's coffee maker was making strange noises and he was too terrified to fix it without proper supervision. Some days, she reflected, the universe had a very strange sense of humor.